The first weekend of my 80% UPF diet was one of those freakish autumn days when summer briefly returns. We headed to the park, and I bought myself and the rest of the family ice cream. Dinah, my wife, had a freeze pop, a tube of frozen bright blue liquid made by a brand called Swizzles. I had a Walls Twister. Our 3-year-old Lyra had a giant scoop of pistachio ice cream from a brand called Hackney Gelato, and her 1-year-old sister Sasha managed to scrounge licks off the rest of us. Lyra met 2 friends and sat around in the blazing sunshine with her ice cream, talking about whatever 3-year-olds talk about before going to play on the swings. She handed me her tub of ice cream as she ran off. It was more or less untouched, a perfect glistening green ball of pistachio. And it took me a moment to realise that this was peculiar. How was it still a ball? The outside of the tub was actually warm to the touch. Why hadn't the ice cream melted? I tried a spoonful. It was a tepid, gelatinous foam. Something had stopped the ice cream from melting. I took a look at the ingredients online. Fresh milk, sugar, pistachio paste, which had its own ingredient list of Bronte pistachios 4%, almonds 2%, sugar, soy protein, soy lecithin, coconut oil, sunflower oil, chlorophyll, natural flavours including lemon. Back to the main ingredients list. Dextrose, fresh double cream, glucose, skim milk powder, stabilizers, including locust bean gum, guar gum, carrageenan, an emulsifier, mono and diglycerides of fatty acids, and finally, Malden sea salt. Stabilizers, emulsifiers, gums, lecithin, glucose, a number of different oils, these are the hallmarks of UPF. The definition, which is long and which I'll explore properly in the next chapter, encompasses far more than the addition of additives. But remember, the presence of those ingredients that you don't have in your kitchen is one indicator that a food is UPF. As we'll see further on, other aspects of processing are equally, if not more important than the additives when it comes to the effects on the human body. And Hackney Gelato are not alone in using these types of ingredients. They're nearly universal in ice cream you buy in shops, but are not found in typical kitchens. I didn't get exactly why they were all necessary from the manufacturer's perspective. Surely it would be simpler and cheaper to use fewer ingredients. To try to understand why UPF is made the way it is and why it's so ubiquitous, I arranged a meeting with a man named Paul Hart. Paul's a food industry insider. He went straight from school into an apprenticeship at Unilever and stayed for over 20 years, first training as a biochemist and then designing food production systems. There's almost nothing he doesn't know about UPF or the industry that makes it. And he's an original. I worked in the big food industry, man and boy. Too old to die young now. Paul's speech is peppered with little phrases like this, quotes, aphorisms, and they seem to be shortcuts to deeper thoughts. It's as if his brain works faster than his mouth can speak, so he has to reduce everything to the minimum number of words, although there's still a lot of words. Asking Paul questions feels like uncorking a bottle that's under pressure. When I asked if we could have a chat, he sent me a 5-page briefing. I met Paul with his wife Sharon in the McDonald's on Pentonville Road in London. He just returned from the vast Food Ingredients Europe trade show in Frankfurt, and he pulled out bundles of literature from ingredients companies I'd never heard of, spreading them all over the sticky plastic table. Exhibit A, dearie me, this is dreadful, blimey, look at this yoghurt shot. Paul showed me a label with extravagant claims about prebiotics, probiotics and omega-3, and explained that the yoghurt is nothing more than a vehicle to make claims about these other ingredients. You lure the customer in on the basis that some defect in their diet is going to be fixed by swallowing a yoghurt full of additives. Conversations with Paul can become enjoyably, if incomprehensibly, obscure, but yoghurt felt like a good segue for me to ask about why Lyra's ice cream hadn't melted. Chris, we can use ice cream as an example to explain nearly everything about UPF, he told me. Well, this sounded ideal. We left McDonald's for a walk down the Regent's Canal to the station where Sharon and Paul needed to catch their train home. They've been married for 40 years, and they're fun to spend time with, still interested in each other's ideas. Sharon's a retired nurse, and she helpfully explained things that I seemed confused by. It was the perfect setting to really get into the topic of ice cream, so Paul started talking about a tortilla conference he'd been to. One company was boasting in jest that their products were essentially embalmed with a shelf life extending for years, he said. I must have looked horrified because he quickly clarified that